Greetings all, and welcome to the 39th episode of the VTP, or the Veteran Trainer's Perspective. Today, we are going to be taking a brief look at the way in which Pokémon has affected the real world that is often overlooked, for the sheer importance it presents to naming and classifying the numerous species of life forms that are found on our planet. Today, we are going to be taking a look at real-life creatures that are named directly after Pokémon, and the value that has for the perpetuation of the franchise into the distant future. Before we get into the main topic of this video, it would likely be helpful to explain how exactly different species of life forms get their names in the first place. To make it simple, the name of a species of life form is dictated by what we refer to as binomial nomenclature. Much as the name might suggest, this species name of any given life form is comprised of two main components: the genus name of the species and its actual species title. While the higher taxonomic orders are important for classifying where in the tree of life per se an organism lays in, the genus and species of an organism are what we mainly use to simplify terms to reference a creature in scientific literature when attention needs to be brought to said organism. In addition to this, it is important to know that within binomial nomenclature, the language most often used to talk about and name organisms is Latin, and this is the go-to language for most because it is the one language that can be universal because no one actually speaks it natively. You can give any sort of name for a cat, for example, but each language has a different word for cat because it's a natural part of the native language. However, because Latin isn't a natural part of any language group that still exists, it can be used as a benchmark for reference as it can be spoken by all without being influenced by the native language. Of course, that doesn't exactly stop most from using different languages as part of the species names, but the system still holds on its own, and thus it can work with other languages in the right circumstances. With all that said, we can now move into the meat and potatoes of this video, looking at some species that have actually been named after Pokémon. The process of actually naming organisms isn't actually all that complicated, as it can be done by anyone that is describing or publishing information on newly discovered species. All it really takes is a close examination of what may or may not be a new species, and once the information is published, if the scientific community holds the article and description as justifiable and credible, the new name will stick, and that name will in turn be etched into the web of taxonomic names for life on Earth. Now, there is no guarantee that these names will stay, as it is always possible that there might be mistakes in the initial publication. It is possible for a new species to actually be a different type of a species already written on, and thus be erroneous in nature. A good example of this would be Nanotyrannus, which was eventually determined to not be a new type of dinosaur, but merely a juvenile Tyrannosaurus rex. This can make the science of nomenclature a bit of a headache for others as a consequence, but the system nonetheless is important for classifying and understanding the connections that lay between different organisms, and many fields of science could not properly function without it all. Thankfully, the system is still rather flexible when it comes to how a new species can be named, so as long as the science holds, you can name new life forms after just about anything. And with that, now let's move into looking at some examples of this from the world of Pokémon. Bulbasaurus Phylloxeron, registered by Camara and Smith in 2017. The species title for this creature, Phylloxeron, means leaf razor, and is derived not just from its leaf-cutting, keratin-covered jaws, but also as a reference to the razor leaf attack that Bulbasaur has made iconic within the Pokémon anime. Chilicola Charizard, registered by Mockton in 2016. While it may have been mainly named after the titular beast out of love, it is also noted that this species has a long snout and an orange hue to its body, whereas similar species have a yellow coloration. Dentroceps Weedli, species registered by Nielsen and Buffington in 2011. This unique wasp stands out from its contemporaries for the large spine that can be seen in the middle of their head, just as with Weedle. Dicranocentris Pikachu, species registered by an unknown party. It may have been renamed. This springtail seems to have gotten its name simply as an honor, with no exact reason behind it. Epicrantinus Pikachu, species registered by Goncalves and Briscovet in 2020. This species of spider seems to have gotten its name for the spots that appear on its abdomen and the overall form of their female sexual organs, which bear a resemblance to the Pokémon's face. Heberantha Pikachu, species registered by Pineda and Barros in 2021. This beetle is distinct from others in its genus because their hardened forewings are yellow in color with black tips, just like the titular Pokémon's ears. Alistra Pikachu, species registered by Lin and Lee in 2021. This spider was named after the franchise's mascot due to its yellow body coloration. Aerodactylus scolopaciceps, species registered by Vidovic and Martel in 2014. Originally described as Pterodactylus scolopaciceps, upon re-evaluation in 2014 it was discovered that this creature did not have the right morphology to be considered a true pterodactyl, despite resembling one greatly, and thus was fitted with a new genus name in reference to how Aerodactyl resembles a pterodactyl itself, despite clearly not being one. Hadroris dratini, species registered by Palumbo et al. In 2021. This is a species of nematode whose adults parasitize on the stomachs of freshwater turtles and were likely named after the serpentine resemblance to dratini. Bimburum articuno, Bimburum motrace, and Bimburum zapdos, species registered by Pollock and Hisayo in 2020. These three species of beetle were originally described and named mainly in honor of the three legendary birds as a sign of their pulp culture status. Parapharangodon polytodi, species registered by Santos et al. In 2018. This species of nematode was likely named after polytoad because it parasitizes on the intestines of tree frogs. Rathalos trico, Anaphana grovile, and Anaphana septile, species registered by Lynn and Lee in 2021. This trio of spiders was mainly named after the members of the trico family because they dwell within forests. Phrenorachne dreepy, species registered by Lynn and Lee in 2022. This spider was likely given its name in reference to the triangular shape of its abdomen, which closely resembles that of Dreepy's head. Nocticola pheromosa, species registered by Mao Shang and Lu Qianyes in 2023. This species of cockroach was named after pheromosa because of their similar features, including long antennae, hood-like wings, and long, slender legs. To wrap up this little analysis of these real-life creatures named after Pokemon, I would like to make a note as to why any of this is actually a big deal in the first place. While there are billions if not trillions of species of life on this planet, the important thing to keep in mind is that, unless the species is discovered to be erroneous or something else prompts a change in its name, species names can exist in perpetuity into the future, and in this way, it is a sign of legacy that can give the chance to preserve the names of those that are of great importance to science and beyond, not just their life, but even the memory of their existence for many. Scientific nomenclature allows organisms to be named after scientists and others in the field that contribute to not just the science at hand, but even the lives of those that are tasked with naming these creatures. Just as there are species named after Pokemon, there are others named after musicians, dancers, and even the close friends and family of those that name their finds. This method of preserving names here is one that is fairly rigid and can stay firm decades and even centuries past its initial description. So if one wishes to keep a name known to the world in some fashion or another, there is no better way to go about it than using it to describe a new species, if appropriate, and stamp the name into the science of life as firmly as one can. The science of naming organisms might not be one that all would understand at first glance, but its capacity to preserve the names of those that are of importance to those describing them is a certain way to make the most of one's own mark on the scientific community. The science will always come first, but as seen in these examples today, there is still room for personal interests and love for pop culture to make its way into the system. Thanks to the men and women responsible for these names, they likely will never be forgotten, and thus will hopefully have a legacy in science that will remain unchanged and unshaken and only added to in the coming years of human existence. That's all for now, so stay tuned and keep an eye out for the next episode of the VTP. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.